some of you know me, but I run the Marketing Academy, which is an organisation operating in Europe, the States and now Asia Pac. And why I tell you that is because that's how I met Emma exactly 10 years ago. So she's one of the most favourite people in my life. She's been involved in the Marketing Academy since the beginning. She's been a mentor and she's come to do talks. And I guess this story started for me on the first day of a scholarship boot camp last May, where Emma was due to speak at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on the Monday, and we get a call from her PA in the morning saying, really sorry, Emma's not coming. And no excuse, no reason, no nothing. I thought, that's really odd. If this woman says she's going to do something, she bloody well does it. And about 3 hours later, I got a text from Em saying, I'm really sorry I'm not there. I'm busy having a heart attack in New York. And I said something like, you're shitting me. And she said, no, I'm following you in your footsteps. So 17 years ago, I had a very life-threatening thing that happened to me that Emma knew all about. So I got on the phone straight away. So I phoned her, she can't remember any of the conversation. I had a better conversation with the intensive care nurse called Doris, because I'm going, Emma, where are you? She's going, Doris, where am I? Doris is saying, you're in this hospital. And I'm going, what's happened? She's going, Doris, what's happened? And they go, we don't know yet. So it then unfolded over a few days. So we're going to talk about that event and what's happened subsequent to that. But I thought a good kickoff would be for you to talk about what your life was like just before that. So just before May last year, what was your life like?
I just want to say how amazing that I didn't know where I was or what had happened, but I knew I had missed the
My boot camp,
I knew I'd missed boot camp. What the fuck? I can't even believe that. I text you to say sorry. Don't know what's going on, but somewhere in me knows that's important and I've missed it and I've let someone down. Well, I suppose that's the context. So going back, so for those who don't know me, I'm Emma Harris. I run Glow London. We're a brand consultancy that connects brand into culture. And going back to May last year, I'm also a mum, primarily, of 4 amazing children, 2 of which are my stepkids, but I don't say that because we're a beautiful blended family. I've brought them up since they were 7 and 9. My husband is an actor who travels a lot and has this crazy life. I was also at the time as part of the exec team of The Social Element, the MD of which is here, Lynn Frost. I am the trustee of the Marketing Academy Foundation, which is the incredible charity that is part of Sherilyn's empire, which helps young people get roles in marketing from sort of tough backgrounds. I was a rep in the class. If any of you have got kids and know what that's like, if any of you haven't got kids and one day will have kids, don't ever do that, because you basically end up running like the school for a year. I'm also on the PTA. And I'm a mensch. So for those of you that aren't Jewish or don't speak Yiddish, a mensch is someone who will always put their hand and go, I'll help that, I'll do that, I'll fix that, I'll make that happen. And it's obviously part of my DNA to have that in me. My mum got very ill when I was 12, and I was the youngest of 3 kids and just took over the house because my mum sort of disappeared overnight. And so that's who I am. I'm always a whirlwind. I'm running 1,000,000 miles an hour. I'm obsessed with growing my business. I'm obsessed with profit. I'm obsessed with everything's got to be perfect. We've got to win this award. We've got to win this. And I've been in New York with you. Then I'd been to Chicago. And then everyone says to me, why don't you just go straight from Chicago to New York? So I was going back to New York. And I was like, no, I've got to go home. The kids are on their own. Danny's in Barcelona. So I flew home for 36 hours, which is bonkers. And then back to New York, where we had a week. On the Monday, I mean, I'm not someone that does not look after my health. On the Monday, there's pictures of me, and I don't really remember it, running by the Hudson. On the Wednesday, I was running by Ground Zero. I mean, when I say run, it's my version of running, which is very slowly, but I'm doing it nonetheless. Running by the Hudson, running by Ground Zero, and then on the Friday, Lynn knocked on my door, and I was doing a HIIT class, probably in just a sports bra, it's not a good look, in my bedroom. So this is not, but we've been out late, we've been drinking a lot of coffee, espresso martinis, we'd had a party the night before, and we're having brunch.
And what
on the day that we're leaving.
And what happened?
So this is all disassociated memory. This is mostly sort of Lynn and Tamara, who's not here, their version of what happened. But I stood up to go to the loo. I slid down the back of a chair. There's a picture of me at 12:08, like looking quite fabulous and happy. I stood up to go to the loo at 12:13, slid down the back of a chair and basically stopped breathing. Part of my heart, one of the ventricles in my heart had electrical pulses called ventricular fibrillation, and they were quivering so fast that my heart just stopped. It's the same thing that happened to Christian Eriksen. So it wasn't a heart attack, it was a cardiac arrest, which is much more lethal. 90% of people that have an out of hospital, OHCA, cardiac arrest, die. I was very lucky. Lynn shouted, I mean, I don't know the story, but people were bringing water, which wasn't that useful. But Lynn shouted, call 911, and 3 people came over and said, can we help? And 2 of them were doctors and 1 of them was a medic. And they saved my life. They gave me CPR, broke my ribs, which was fucking painful. Like, that was the most painful thing. But, you know, fair enough. Gave me CPR, my heart started again. An ambulance came in 7 minutes. I think 2 ambulances came, actually. They got me in the ambulance. My heart stopped again, and Lynn and Tamara and the gang, they're all standing there watching, and there are people coming out the ambulances shaking their heads like, she ain't gonna make it. And then they defibbed me like they do in Grey's Anatomy. Clear, I know that much. Defibbed me, nothing, flat line. Defibbed me again, and my heart started again. Wow. And that was the beginning of the recovery. Lynn was told, you're the next of kin, go home, we'll phone you when she's dead, basically. Yeah. But I didn't. Something in me fought it, and I'm here.
And what's your first memory?
I think it's Danny coming. So my husband flew over that night, horrendous for him, not knowing whether he was landing to me being alive or dead. And he told me this story where in the middle of the plane, he dropped off because he hadn't slept at all and woke up screaming. Screaming, and this very kind man who was in business class next to him went, you all right, mate? And they became friends for the rest of the trip. But he walked in wearing a green hat, green top, green trousers and green shoes, and I just roasted him. That's one of my first memories. Just went, what the fuck are you wearing?
And after we'd spoken, what I then saw is, I'm so sorry, let me go back a bit. So the people that were with Lynn, Emma's friends, Lynn and Tamara, etc., were kind of trying to manage the story because nobody knew what the outcome might be. So they had decided that they would tell very few people and contain the story for all the right reasons. I have a conversation with her, so I'm kind of ish up to speed with Doris because Doris was telling me what was happening. And then it's less than like 8 hours later, I'm scrolling through LinkedIn and I see this not brilliantly attractive photo of you and this big post which broke LinkedIn. So how many views did that get, that post?
Over 9 million.
So, and with the hashtag slow the fuck down. So talk a little bit about how you were feeling at that time. What provoked you to do that?
Well, Sherilyn, I remember it all very clearly. I don't remember, but I would imagine, you know, I am someone who likes to share reality. I've talked on social media about, you know, abortions and miscarriages and life being tough, mental health struggles, the difficulties of bringing up a blended family, that sort of, you know, losing my parents. And it's something, and I'm lying in bed thinking, how did this happen? And my only thought is, I've not looked after myself. I have put everyone else first. I've not looked after myself. This came out of the blue, and that's what I shared. The oxygen was up my nose, and I was lying in bed, and I just put this thing, I'm a mum, all the stuff I said, mum of 4, I'm on the PTA, I'm da-da-da-da-da-da, don't be me, put yourself first, # slow the fuck down. So I think it was just wanting to, I think we live in a world where if things happen, we think about how can we share that story, as Yoda says. I can't remember the quote that I used this morning, but yeah, one is only as good as what the learnings that you share.
And then you continue to talk about it, you continue to post videos. So when you got back, what impact did what had happened to you have on you, on the family, when you finally managed to get back to the UK?
I mean, I think we're probably still in shock, if I'm honest. I don't think we've really processed it. The kids just thought, Daddy had come out for a lovely romantic time with Mummy. I think I said to the kids, what's changed in the last year? And they both said at the same time, you're here more.
Oh, wow.
So I think as a family, it's just made us feel very grateful. I had at the time a 5-year-old, a 10-year-old, and 2 young people who very much rely on me. The thought of that would have been, my mum died when I was 5. That would have been his story, my little one. So I'm really grateful that that wasn't the case. And it's just, we are really grateful, and there's a lot less bickering. There's a lot less sweating the small stuff. Danny might say, tell me that's not true, but I think it is. I let stuff go. I talked the other day about how I don't bitch so much about how people stack the dishwasher as I used to, but I've not become a Buddhist monk. I've not completely changed, but there are micro changes in the choices that I make and the way that I think that have had an impact on the family.
Tell us more about those changes.
I mean, it's something I talked about a lot before, but we're like good therapists that talk about stuff and don't do it ourselves. But it's just, I was the queen of FOMO, as you know, as everyone here that loves me knows. Always the last at the bar, always the first at the bar, never wanting to miss out anything. I'm not invited to anything, I'm desperate, and out 3 or 4 nights a week, workaholic. That has changed massively, because I'm realising when something like that happens, what makes you realise is you think about, why am I doing stuff? Because life is so fragile and every day is so precious, that why am I spending time in a network event rather than being at home putting my little boy to bed? Why am I missing those assemblies? Why am I that mum that never knows it's dress up day? I am the woman from Motherland who's always standing by the gates going, shit. And I don't want to be that anymore. For what? Because what's driving a lot of those decisions, you have FOMO, but not just social FOMO, but business FOMO. We talked about this the other day. You have it too. If I don't go to that event, there might be a sponsor. I'll miss the business deal of my life. If I don't go to that bath, take that, I'm going to walk in. But you don't consciously think. 95% of our behaviour is unconscious. And what I've become more aware of is, what's the voice I'm listening to? What's the thought that I'm listening to? How real is that? And something, again, we talked about the other day, making decisions based on evidence, not thoughts and feelings.
Give an example.
So just, so often I will say no to an event that, whereas before I would have never missed stuff. If I know I've got one other night out during the week, and Gemma knows this, I was always the first with my hand up, I'll be there. I'm often just, no, I've got something else on that week, I'm not being out 2 nights in a row. And deal with that thing. We have this fear of, if I'm not there, everyone will think I'm flaky, people won't love me anymore, people won't want to be around me anymore, or people will talk about me. That is madness, because not only do our thoughts and feelings not exist, and that doesn't mean I'm negating how we feel, but thoughts and feelings are a choice. But when we do that thing of, I'm doing this because of what I think someone else is thinking, we're not only making decisions based on thoughts and feelings we can change, we're imagining the thoughts of someone else that don't exist.
Yeah.
So we're making decisions based on double madness. There's a guy called Jay Shetty who wrote a great book, Think Like a Monk, and he actually did go and be a monk, and he shares his learning, and he says, I'm not what I think I am, I'm not what you think I am, I'm what I think you think I am, and that is madness.
Yeah.
So it's things like that, saying no more, there's a parent governor thing gone up yesterday on the email thing, and 3 people messaged me, are you going to stand for parent governor? And I'm sitting on my hands, and I just said, no, I'm not doing that. That I would have done before.
How did that feel?
Great.
Oh, cool. Because I think that there's lots of things that are driving us to make some of the choices that we're making, right? So in my situation, the choices that I was making in my life absolutely led to me nearly dying. But mine were about chasing some mythical version of what success looked like. So I'd been quite successful, I'd got a bit of money, I'd got the nice house, and then you get scared that you're going to lose it. So you felt it, and then you're scared that you're going to lose it, and so you have to work even harder because you think, oh shit, somebody could take this away. And then you get into this treadmill of fear and doom, and suddenly you find yourself thinking, oh my God, I don't even know who I am anymore. Do you recognise that?
Totally. That quest. So if you think about all the things that are actually important to you versus all the things you're doing, so the quest to protect the things that's actually important, you're doing the opposite. You're missing those moments with your kids. You're missing those, not looking after yourself. You're missing it all because you're protecting them with the things that actually aren't important.
Yeah.
And that is absolutely, I always talk about when you get that job, when you get that salary, when you get that house, when you get that car, and guess what? When you get that car, you want a better car. And when you get that job, you want a bigger job. And that's the big difference to me. When I'm thin enough, when my lashes are perfect, whatever it is, you put your happiness in front of you all the time and you're chasing it. And I am absolutely working really hard to just bring my happiness here. This body gave me 2 kids in my 40s and survived a cardiac arrest. Why do I not love it? There are voices in my head that are so negative and so vicious, and we all have them. And it's really controlling them and thinking, they're actually my mum. Love you. God rest her soul, my Jewish mother, who I could walk. I remember once went to see her in hospital wearing my gym kit, and I said, I've got to go, Mum, I've got a class. And she went, it's not really working, is it, all this? When I first took Danny home, we were like doing the mother-daughter wash up, and I was like, well, what do you think? I mean, this is, the love of my life who I've been with for 14 years. What do you think? She went, well, I just don't want you to get hurt. And I said, why will I get hurt, Mum? And she said, when he finishes it. Not if, when. So that voice is very loud. We all have it, right? And we can choose to not listen to it. I also have a great cheerleader who's my dad, who just thought everything I did was wonderful. And,
your dad is wonderful, was wonderful, still is wonderful. The voice in your head is an interesting concept, though, because I've always felt that we talk to ourselves like we would never talk to somebody that we love.
Or hate.
Or hate.
You would never say those words out loud, right?
And so acknowledging that it's just not a truth, and empowering yourself to say, you're not serving me right now, just not listening right now.
I mean, it's the minute you realise it's just a thought, when it's in your head, it's so loud and there. The minute you realise it's just a thought, it's like putting a pin in a balloon.
Yeah.
It's lost its power. It's disassociated with you, and then you can get control back.
Well, and also our brains can't distinguish between a thought that's real and a thought that's made up.
Yeah.
So if anybody's ever woken up at 3 o'clock in the morning and you think you hear a noise, and you kind of in your mind's eye you're seeing a burglar come through your window, and you're, oh my God, I'm going to get killed in my bed, and your entire physiology changes because your brain doesn't know that you just made that up. So your brain's seen it and it just thinks, that's it, I'm going to be dead, and you raise your heartbeat and your cortisol and adrenaline and you just made it up. So there's another way of controlling that thought, is that I just made that up. I literally just made that. There's no evidence to support that.
Choose a different thought.
So we've both had an event that's kind of caused a rethink and and quite a sea change in some ways in terms of the choices. And I've spent all of the time since, mine was 17 years ago, I've spent all of the time since trying to make sure that nobody has to get to a life-changing, threatening, possible death before they start realising that they can control this. So what lessons do you feel people who haven't had, a life-threatening thing, what lessons would you like them to take from this?
I mean, I've sort of talked a lot about sort of three things, and I just want to say the reason why I'm banging on about this stuff, and not banging on, I'm talking a lot about this stuff, is because that LinkedIn post. That LinkedIn post got 9 million views because 3,000 people shared it, 90,000 people reacted to it, 10,000 people commented on it, and the stories that people said, there were women crying, saying, I'm crying, I am you, I never put myself first. There was a man who worked for an agency who told the story of him going to a pitch, knowing he was having a heart attack, doing the pitch, and saying to the suit on the way out, can you take me to A&E? I'm having a heart attack. I mean, what the actual fuck? This industry, but cross industry, but I think our industry particularly, has, particularly in our generation, has this ethos that you work and work and work and you put yourself last. So when that post went so viral, I thought there is a thing here. This is resonating with people. I was meeting people at dinner parties who were crying and saying, I read your post, it changed my life. So I was like, right, I need to crystallize these learnings. And the three things I've really, really learned is, one, make better choices. Think about why you're saying yes. Think about what's important. Have, that living more meaningful life on a tiny basis every day. The exercise, for example, we can make a million choices not to do it. Just prioritize it. Secondly is pay attention. When you're tired, rest. When you're feeling down, do something about it. If you're feeling ill, that was a good thing about COVID. The only fucking good thing about COVID is it used to be cool to go to work ill, right? You'd go, I've got norovirus, but I'm in the office. Do you know what I mean? You'd be like, I'm a hero. And now you sneeze and people are like, get the fuck out. And I think that's the only good thing from COVID. And that's the thing. We don't pay attention. We don't look, as particularly mums. I'm not saying it's exclusive to mums, but I think women and mums do not. You just get on with it. You look after everyone else but yourself. So make better choices. Pay attention. The third one is have the conversation. If you spot that people are struggling, let them talk about it. If you are struggling yourself, talk about it. If you're a leader in a business, make sure there are opportunities for people to share their most authentic selves, their vulnerable selves, that dialogue exists and people can go, I'm overwhelmed here.
What do you think the key to that is? Because that's about really shifting the culture in the workplace, and especially in some of our industry, that's not prevalent, right? So if people are listening to this and they're running businesses, what would you advise them?
Comes from the top. It comes from the top, and that's where it starts. There's no point, HR trying to do initiatives, give everyone a day off, when everyone's overworked anyway. It's got to come from a genuine place of people at the top wanting to have a culture of well-being. And a lot of people say, oh, slow the fuck down, I want them to all speed the fuck up. But actually, when you have a culture where people feel seen and genuinely looked after, where you're giving them opportunities to have that dialogue, to find help when they need it, and they know where to go to get help when they need it, when you're encouraging them to physically, drink water, limit coffee, consider how you fuel your body, take time for exercise. You're a boss and you're going to the gym at lunchtime, tell everyone. I recently, with one of my clients, I heard that there was someone saying you have to have lunch at your desk. Oh my God, that's the opposite of what leaders should be doing.
Yeah.
So slow the fuck down does mean speed the fuck up, because when you are in a culture where you feel you've got the space to think and your body and your mind is well, you will be more productive.
Yeah.
So it's about saying, what do you want? You want to kill everyone, beat everyone to death, and then, that sort of diminishing delivery, or genuinely create from the top an environment where both, from a cultural point of view and sort of the physical things where people have the help, so the functional and the emotional space to really be looked after. But, it's got to be endemic. It's got to be right through the DNA of the business. It can't just be something that sits out in HR, because that's just bullshit.
Yeah, I agree. Are we allowed to take questions? Can we take some questions?
Anyone got any questions?
Got a question? Of course they'll have a question.
No one has.
Yes. So just repeat the question. So repeat the question.
Do I feel guilt saying no?
Yeah.
A little bit, but that's where you check yourself. That's when your voice is going that, that you're letting people down. you're really letting people down, and that's really not okay. And then you go, but they love me. And also I think we overinflate our sense of importance. You know, we're like, I can't miss her birthday because, well, actually there's 500 people going to the birthday, and if you're not there, even if there's 20 people going to a birthday, that one person that doesn't go, she's still going to have a great time. So I think some of the guilt is an overinflated sense of self. Like it'll all, I mean, don't get me wrong, obviously party's better when Emma's there, but I do think that's not my responsibility to make everyone else's life fabulous. And interesting, and that was my personal brand.
Yeah, it was.
My personal brand was to make everyone else's lives fabulous. I think now it's just being happy, and it's more about my life, not even being fabulous, just being okay, being happy.
A bit fabulous.
Oh, right, okay, it's being fabulous. I say sitting in Cannes on a rooftop drinking rosé. Yes, Julie Dolman.
Do you ever find yourself falling back into some of those old ways and habits? And if so, what do you do?
It's a really good question. Yes, of course. And you know what? I got a lot of people around me to check me. I'm looking at one of them. You know, who will call me out on it. Say, is this slow the fuck down? Is this the right choice? But you know, Julie knows I spend a lot of time every month in Gibraltar, whereas before I'd be like out every night. I'll always have 2 nights there. One night we might do a dinner, but one night I'll be in bed by 9, and I'll get up early in the morning and go to the gym. And that's a very different Emma. That's a very different Emma. So I think sometimes I do. I'm in Cannes, you know, I'm getting a bit overexcited, but I know you know, we won't be in. I've said my KPI for this week is I will not be in the gutter bar.
Okay, that's a good
So if
one.
anyone sees me in the gutter bar, call me out on it.
Put a post on LinkedIn and tag her. Yes.
I've got a question. You spoke about this update you put on LinkedIn, and everyone was like, wow. And there was so much good stuff. There's also some individuals on there that was clear haters. And I want to understand, how did you feel about that?
I don't remember them.
Did you read them back after?
No, 10,000 comments I haven't. I don't actually know that there was. That was the most thing for me, that most of the comments, it was an outpouring of love.
Yeah.
From strangers across the world, some of whom are still following me and message me all the time. Whenever I put something nice up, I'll get messages from people across in America saying, I'm following your story. I think it's I've met people here in the last 24 hours who said, I've followed your story. I don't remember the haters. What were they saying, Melanie?
I remember
I
one.
think it's important because actually when something that big goes that far,
Yeah, what were they saying?
I remember one saying, I think you could have delivered that message without a profanity.
Oh, yeah.
We're like, nah, she couldn't have.
And I wrote back, if you don't like swearing, unfollow me, because
there was one that said, you're telling us to slow down and you're in hospital. I just think it's the way that you...
And I'm in hospital posting.
Yeah.
She doesn't remember posting.
No, I don't remember posting. And actually, you know, putting a little thing, that's not stressful, is it? That's not hard work. I wanted to share. A lot of people have said to me, oh, this doesn't sound very like slow the fuck down. You're doing all these talks, but it's like I said, it's the small choices. So I might be doing a talk. So I'm doing one, the fellowship alumni, that Mark Evans is running in 3 weeks. I was supposed to do a 9 o'clock slot, and I've changed it to 2 in the afternoon because there's a thing I wanted to do the day before, which is this retreat where, you know, we're literally doing yoga and ice baths and meditation, and I'm like, I'm going to prioritize that.
Fabulous.
And that evening, we were supposed to go away for 2 nights. My daughter's got the role of Annie, I don't know where she gets it from, of Annie in Annie. So whereas before I'd have tried to kind of do it all, I'm like, no, I'm just going to go to that.
You do know that the alumni retreat is in the place that I live, right? So you can stay with me.
Yeah.
Just telling you. Okay, any other yes. Final question.
Yeah, I was wondering, like, do you think you would have listened to your own advice now if you hadn't had such a drastic change? Do you think you would have been able to hear it and act on that change without experiencing it yourself?
I think if someone close to me or someone I respected, it had happened to them. I think the shocking thing about it happened to me is that everyone knows Emma Harris, powerhouse. You know, it's just, it it was a day, I think that was the thing that shocked people, is that someone who you thought is invincible suddenly can happen with no pre-existing conditions, no warning. So I think you don't hear these stories very often. I suppose it's a good question. I think if it was someone who I knew or someone who told it in as compelling way as I would, I'd hope I would listen.
But it is hard. It's really hard. I mean, I've spent 17 years now trying to ensure that anybody within my sphere of influence would know to make different choices. And it's really hard to land it.
Yeah.
You know, because we believe we're invincible.
Yeah.
We really do. I was like, fuck, I thought I was going to live forever.
Yeah.
I'm omnipotent. And it took me years to get my head around that. And you're still processing that. And I had to go through a real journey. I lost my confidence, which, if you know me, is like, what? Couldn't get out of bed, couldn't speak to people because the shock of what happened to me. Nobody could have told me to do anything differently before then. I was 43 when it happened. No one could have told me to live my life differently. So it is tough. And look, we can't control what people take out of M's story, out of the lessons. We can't control that. All we can choose to do is to share as much as we can about these things in the hopes that just one or two people might just make a little bit of a different choice every now and then. And so long as we keep doing that, hopefully people will choose to listen. But it is tough. So, I mean, my final word would be, do not wait until you are on the brink of death, because it's too fucking late to change a thing. When it happened to me, I thought, if I die today, it would be a really shit day to die. And every day since, I've made sure that the day would be a good day to die.
Yeah.
What's your last words?
I don't know if I can beat that.
Oh, I bet you
But
can.
yeah, if you only take, thank you, but if you only just take one thing out of what I said, there's a lot there I've thrown at people, but you know, just recognising that 95% of that behaviour is unconscious, so check your thoughts. I think you told me, James, 60,000 thoughts a day, and 85% of them are negative, and we're battling that all the time. You know, we're wired like that because when we were Neanderthals, if you hear a noise behind you, you've got to think it's life-threatening, or you know. So we are wired to think negatively. So just, if there's one thing, it's just checking your thoughts. You know, dealing with the fact that they're not you, they're just a thought, and recognising why you're doing things. That would be just that little bit there, and then you can still carry on partying and drinking, just as long as you're making the right decisions to do it.
Fabulous. So that was the absolutely fabulous Emma Harris.
And the fabulous Sherilyn Shackell! And now it's happy hour!
But she's only staying for half an hour.
Yeah, and I only drunk half the rosé.